Andy Staples covers college football for On3 Sports, and he was in Tuscaloosa Saturday for Alabama's comeback win over Tennessee. He'll be in Jacksonville next Saturday, Georgia, and Florida. I'll get to Alabama, Tennessee in a moment. Worst loss of the college football weekend was turned in by who, Andy?
North Carolina. Yeah, losing to a 1-5 Virginia. North Carolina was in a position it felt like they were potentially going to be undefeated going to the ACC championship game to play Florida State. The path was there for them, and it looked like North Carolina had improved defensively, but they just laid an egg against a team that they should have been able to beat pretty handily. So that was by far the worst one.
Yeah, but North Carolina does this, it feels like every other year, where you go, hey, North Carolina got a nice little team there. And then all of a sudden, you're losing to Virginia. Where does USC's home loss to Utah rank?
It's bad. But I mean, that's the third consecutive loss by USC to Utah. We should be getting used to this by now. But you mentioned that you have Bill Plaschke on the show. Bill hit it on the head. That's exactly how people in Los Angeles are feeling right now. Is this was supposed to be different. This was supposed to be better. I wrote a column off the Pac-12 championship game last year in Vegas where Utah just demolished USC. Once Caleb Williams got dinged up, Utah took advantage of USC having a defense that couldn't tackle. And he said, okay, this offseason, they will make this better. They will improve the talent on the defense. They will improve the scheme. It will get better. It didn't get any better. They did improve the talent, but for whatever reason, you've got Bryson Barnes, who was not expected to be Utah's starter. He's a walk-on who was a backup to Cam Rising, but Cam Rising's not coming back because of his knee. You got Bryson Barnes running through USC's defense to set up a game-winning field goal. It's just every week it's the same thing. And I think we kind of knew when USC played Colorado and we saw that Colorado offense pick USC's defense apart in the second half. It's like, okay, this is going to be a little bit rough. And it's going to get worse because they've still got to play Washington and Oregon.
Where do you stand with Lincoln Riley's future at USC?
Well, he can stay there as long as he wants. The question is, does he want to compete for national titles there? Because if he does, he's going to have to make some changes. This is the same stuff that a lot of people have been saying going back to Oklahoma. You have got to make physical play a bigger priority in your program. You've got to practice differently. You got to have a different philosophy about that. They're probably going to have to change defensive coordinators in the offseason and move on from Alex Grinch. But you have to be able to tackle at some point. It can't just be pretty plays where the quarterback makes some magic happen. And by the way, Caleb Williams will be gone next year. Now, I trust Lincoln Riley to always have a good quarterback because he always has. But they have to have a better offensive line and a better defensive line where they're going. They're going to the Big Ten. You're playing Michigan, you're playing Ohio State, Penn State. Those teams do not care how pretty your plays are. They're just going to punch you in the mouth. And that's the part that I don't understand how he hasn't figured that out yet, because it's pretty clear that what Kirby Smart does and what Jim Harbaugh does, the way they practice, the way they play, that wins and wins at a high level. Like what Nick Saban does, wins at a high level.
I think Jim Harbaugh had a pretty good weekend when you consider the walls were kind of closing in on him a little bit there with the sign stealing. And then, his quarterback is, according to DraftKings, he's the leading candidate for the Heisman. Feels like, and Harbaugh may have the best team in college football, most balanced team in college football. Where do you stand on Michigan and their placement among the hierarchy?
Oh, they're fantastic. And you may be right. They may be the best team in college football. We won't know until they actually play somebody, which we won't see that till November 11th when they go to State College and play Penn State. But they absolutely are built perfectly based on, you look at who's going to the NFL from that roster, how much talent have they accumulated, who's good where. They have the most special quarterback that they've had in the Jim Harbaugh era, and he keeps saying that over and over about J.J. McCarthy. He's the most dynamic quarterback Jim Harbaugh's had at Michigan. So they absolutely have everything they need. We just need to see them play somebody good. Unfortunately, the schedule worked out the way it worked out. If this were next year, they would have better opponents coming in sooner, and we'd have a better idea of what they are. Yeah. But we got to deal with what we got, and I can't wait to see them against Penn State. Now, Penn State did not blow us away in Columbus. The offense is not very good. The defense is, but at least we'll get to see what that Michigan offense looks like against an elite defense. And I think that will help us kind of judge where they fit along with everybody else.
We're talking to Andy Staples. He covers college football for On3 Sports. Will the regular season be de-emphasized next season?
No, because they're going to be games that that don't matter now that are going to matter quite a bit. Now, will, for example, Penn State, Ohio State feel like the be all end all type game? No, but it wasn't this year really either, because Penn State, if they were to beat Michigan, is not out of the hunt now. So what's going to happen though is you're going to have games among teams that are trying to be the number 12 team or the number 11 team. You're going to have games between teams that are trying to be the number 9 team or the number 8 team, because that matters. If you're number 9, you go on the road. If you're number 8, you start at home. They're going to be, conference championships will still matter because you've got to win one to get a bye in the playoffs. So all of that stuff will still matter. It's not going to de-emphasize anything. There'll be more games that actually matter for the season, longer into the season, and for more teams.
Yeah, when I was pushing for this 12-team playoff, I got some blowback from people saying, hey, it's going to ruin the regular season. I go, no. Now, all of a sudden, you can have 2 losses and still get into the playoffs here. And if you're looking at this year, that's not going to happen. But it does make the November games more important as opposed to, hey, we're just going to play and see if we're bowl eligible or, we might be a spoiler here. Now you have a legitimate chance with these teams. There's going to be more teams, more games that are more important or mean something than November's usually a throwaway month for a lot of these schools because they're not going to
for entire conferences sometimes, Dan. There were years where the Big 12 or the Pac-12 was effectively eliminated by November. That's not any fun. Now the Pac-12 eliminated itself by getting torn apart, but now, like in the Big 12, you're going to have a bunch of teams that are all pretty similar, all very competitive with one another. And there's going to be at least one spot for them out there and possibly 2 or more. And think about what those games will be like down the stretch where you could have, a team take over first place this week, lose next week, get it back the following week. It's going to be fun.
Always great to talk to you, Andy. Safe travels to Jacksonville for Georgia and Florida.
Thank you, Dan.
Andy Staples. Been covering college football for a long time.